Hello, welcome to my presentation. Samsung is a company that produces electronic gadgets. However, the products that Samsung produces have steps on how it became how it was. All things starts with the purchasing department. Firstly, Samsung needs to purchase their materials from vendors. A purchase requisition is normally raised before the purchasing department buy the material. A purchase requisition is then created so that Samsung can buy the material that they need. After the purchasing department receives the purchase requisition, they will then check if their company has the materials or not. Otherwise, they will resort to either online agreement, source list, or RFQ. Source list refers to the list that states what vendor can provide what materials for Samsung. Outline agreement refers to the negotiation of Samsung and the vendor on the material, pricing, quantity, and the duration of agreement. RFQ refers to the invitation by Samsung to ask vendors to send their quotation. Before issuing a purchase order, Samsung will first determine which is the best vendor to buy from using vendor evaluation. With weightage score, Samsung can then identify which vendor is the best to buy from. The other vendor will then be issued a reject letter. After the purchase order has been received by the vendor will then be notified. The vendor will then produce the materials that is according to what the purchase order has stated and be delivered to Samsung inventory. Then, it will increase the stock of Samsung. Samsung will then check the purchase order against the invoice received to check if the price, material, and the quantity are according to what it has stated. If it is according to what it is stated, then Samsung will prepare for the payment of their purchase. They can choose two types of payment, partial payment or full payment. After the payment is done, the purchasing stage is complete. After the materials are purchased, the company will then follow the stage of production planning. There are a total of 6 stages in production planning. The 6 stages are production order, forecasting, MRP and MPS, adjusting and monitoring, goods receipt, and order settlement. The CEO, CIO, and the Sales and Marketing Director of Samsung will then check the forecast of the world economy so that they are able to make the best decision for planning and budgeting. An example is when the world economy is going down, then Samsung should cut down some of its production. MRP, which is Material Requirement Planning, asks this question: what are needed, when they are needed, and how much they are needed. MPS, which is Master Production Schedule, asks this question: when to make, how many to make, and when to make. The Samsung products are then closely monitored and adjusted in the case of any errors during the production. This will decrease the number of unwanted goods being produced. Quality control and assurance. One is a reactive way of controlling that clears out the unwanted goods after being produced, and the other one is a proactive way that ensures every product are being produced correctly. Machinery is required in this line of business to automate many of the attaching stages, such as placing the screen, placing the battery and all, and it is important to have skilled workers to maintain the machinery. Computer-aided design is computer-based software that will aid in the design process. It will allow to create more accurate design representation. Computer-aided manufacturing is a computer-based software that will aid in the manufacturing process by increasing the consistency of producing products without errors. During goods receipt stage, there will be picking, packing, and loading. After the goods are finished packed, they are then prepared to be shipped to the buyer store. During the final stage, which is order settlement, the cost is being analyzed with the target cost to see if it has surpassed the target cost. Samsung gained most of its revenue through the selling of their electronic gadgets such as smartphones, tablets, and many more. When someone has placed an order for Samsung, Samsung will then check for the availability and issue the sales order. Then, Samsung will follow the delivery method that the buyer wants. There are many types of delivery, which are one-time delivery, complete delivery, and delayed delivery. Then, order combination means sending all the goods to the buyer at one delivery, while the partial delivery means splitting into multiple delivery to the buyer. The delivered items are then stored in either a large distribution center or are stored in a small warehouse. In the billing method, there is delivery-based delivery, which is one delivery, one invoice, and collective delivery, which means all delivery invoice sent at one time. And lastly, split delivery, which is one delivery split into multiple invoices. The 4 P's, which are product, price, places, and promotion, are important as they will affect the sales of product of Samsung. Example of this is the pricing has many pricing methods. After the postcode issue is issued, Samsung will send an invoice to the buyer. The buyer can then do their payment either by cash or digital payment, and when the bill is paid, Samsung will then send a receipt back to the buyer as a proof of transaction. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you for watching.
Created using Powtoon.